Hello children, welcome to this video lesson on history. In your earlier classes you studied ancient and medieval histories of India, and in this class we study modern history. So this period is closer to our times and we have many more resources compared to ancient and medieval histories. And the first lesson in your history textbook is how, when and where. So this is a very general topic, and this introduction is very essential for you to understand how this book is written. So I expect you to read the textbook a couple of times, and please watch this video also at least 2 times. Okay. Now, what comes to your mind when I say history? For many people, history is a collection of dates, events, and great people. And in fact, the first thing that comes to many people's mind is dates. And in fact, many people hate history just because of these dates. Now, the question is, how important are these dates? Okay, as we go along, we study these aspects, and as I told you, we are talking about the modern phase, the phase in which the British started dominating India. The British got control over India during this phase of our history, and they ruled India for close to 200 years. And in this year, we study all the developments that led to the capture of power by the British, and we study the independence movement, and we study how we got our independence. There is one problem associated with the study of any history. History is very subjective. So what does it mean? It means that it is open to interpretation. So different people perceive history in different ways, and different historians present history of the same period and the same place in different ways, and many times these histories contradict one another. So if you are studying, say, mathematics or science, you don't face such problem. In mathematics, 1 plus 1 is always 2, and in science, no matter which book you read, you get the same Newton's laws, you get same units and dimensions. In fact, everything is same. The presentation may differ a little, but the concepts remain the same, and it is very objective. But history is very subjective. It is always influenced by the personal prejudices of the historians, influenced by what they feel about that period, or even influenced by their own predispositions. So when we study history, you have to keep all these things in mind. You should also see who wrote this history, why they wrote it this way, and are there any other accounts. So in a way, history presents so many challenges. So let us accept these challenges. Let us try to understand history. Okay. So if you look at the earlier accounts of Indian history written by the British people, they were entirely different from what we study nowadays. So they wrote history, Indian history, from their perspective. They presented India as a backward country, as a country which is badly in need of some external intervention, and Britishers regarded themselves as kind of saviors who came to India to civilize us, to bring their ideals, their institutions, and their science and technology into our country. So if you read the works written by British historians, you can see that they present the history as if they are doing a favor to India, as if their arrival has brought a drastic positive change into our lives, and we know it is not quite true. So let us explore these themes as we go along in this year's history. Okay, so now I show you one picture that is shown in your textbook. So observe this picture carefully. So what do you see? You see a lady standing in the middle here, and then you see some people, in fact they are Indian Pandits, offering their books to this lady. So that lady is actually a representation of Britannia. So you know, India, whenever we represent India as Bharat Mata. So Britannia is actually the counterpart of our Bharat Mata. So she is the personification of the mighty British Empire. She is not the empress, remember, she is the personification of the British Empire, just like our Bharat Mata. And in this picture what you see is this Britannia being this Britannia receiving Indian texts from the Indian Pandits, and you can see the British soldiers sitting by the side. You can see one ship in the background. You can see some person, a person working here in the fields. Please pay attention. So it is as if it is a symbolic picture actually. This is not a photo. This is a painting made by James Rennell, and it was presented in a book of maps prepared by him. Okay, and in fact the picture presents a rather grim picture of India. It is as if the Britishers have come to India to protect us, to deliver us from all our misery. Okay, and these Indians are submitting themselves to the rule of the British. That is how we should interpret this picture. And so what Britishers did was, of course, they came to India. They took upon themselves the task of governing our country, and they brought many things with them, no doubt about that. They brought their language, their culture, their institutions such as democracy, then rule of law and whatnot. Okay, now many things that we see in our day-to-day lives are not something that are there from since times immemorial. In fact, many things have appeared gradually. For example, if you take this mobile phone through which you are watching, it is a recent invention. It is something that was not known to your grandparents in their childhood. Okay, so it is something that happened only recently. And then look around you. What are the things that have come recently? What are the things that are there for quite some time? So many things that you see around you are modern inventions, modern gadgets. There may be certain things that are old, certain things that are there for quite a long time. So history is not just about the dates associated with the rulers and their rule, then their the important events in their lives. It is more than that. History is an understanding of how things changed, how societies changed, how new things entered into our lives. For example, in every home we find people drinking coffee and tea. But were people drinking coffee and tea 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 1000 years ago? No. It came into our country slowly and gradually it became powerful. Tea, for example. So if you look at this advertisement, it's an advertisement that was published almost 100 years ago. Advertisement for Lipton tea. You can see a palace and you can see a prince sitting on a horse in front of this palace, and In fact, the company is trying to promote this drink as the drink consumed even by the royal families. So these advertisements, they promote products. So if you look at old advertisements, you will be really surprised to see how the products gradually became part and parcel of our lives. Okay, this picture you can see in your textbook also. Okay, so we are discussing an important point. Are dates important? So when we write history from the point of view of the rulers, no doubt we assign lot of importance to dates. Dates such as when they became the rulers, which battles they waged, when they died. So history becomes it's just like an account of the dates. Okay, but when we pay attention to the processes, the changes that took place, then dates lose some of their importance. Just like just now I told you about tea. So it's a modern beverage. It was not there before the British. It came to India a little late, and it became a common drink everywhere now. So, and can you assign one date when tea was brought into India? Difficult to say. People acquire a taste for tea or coffee over a period of time, and it is not something that happened all of a sudden. You just cannot give one date and say this is the time when this is the date when Indian people started drinking tea. Similarly, many things we cannot assign a single date. Things happened over a period of time. Sometimes that period of time may be short. An invention may find its way into the society very quickly. Sometimes it may take a long time, and after many years it may become a common commodity in everybody's home. So when you look at history from that perspective, dates become less important, and we pay attention to the processes, the changes that are taking place. We pay more attention to the lives of common people. Okay, so look at this picture of Warren Hastings. He was the first Governor General of India. He became the Governor General of India in the year 1773. Okay, and if you look at the history is written by British people, most of them were actually a record of these governors general, the viceroys and their policies, then the major events and their personal achievements. It is as if there is nothing else outside their personal achievements. So that is how many British histories were presented. So if you read those histories, you won't find much mention about how Indian people lived. You won't find much about what was happening to common people, what their culture is, what their customs are, or what problems they face. These things you won't find any mention in the histories presented by the British people. Things have changed. So if you recall the history that you studied in your earlier class, in that we have chapters entirely dedicated for tribal people. One chapter is there for tribal people. There is one chapter on traders. So we started giving importance to common people. Now we no longer bother too much about these people. Of course, they appear in every history, no doubt about that. But the importance attached to them is now reduced. That's the change that we see in the writing of history. And another thing, of course, is we are writing history from our perspective, not from the British perspective. Okay. Now, yeah. So I told you that in your class 6th you studied ancient history, in your class 7th you studied medieval history, and this year you study the modern history. So no doubt this is classification. So we are dividing this history, entire history, into 3 different phases: ancient, medieval and modern. This is actually a recent classification. But when the Britishers were writing history, they employed a different classification. Let us look at that. So this, if you look at this classification, in the year 1817, James Mill, which is a Scottish philosopher and economist, he wrote a history of India. In fact, he wrote 3 massive volumes, a very detailed account of Indian history. So he divided Indian history into 3 phases, 3 periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. Now, what is the classification we are following now? Ancient, medieval, and modern. But the classification given by James Mill when he presented his history of India, in fact, look at the title, A History of British India, because at that time India was part of British Empire. There was no separate India, it was actually British India. So what he did was, he classified Indian history into Hindu, Muslim, and British phases. Now, on what basis did he do this classification? What is Hindu phase, what is Muslim phase, and what is British phase? So obviously he is talking about the religion of the rulers. If you look at ancient history, majority of the rulers were Hindus, but not all. We have seen Buddhist rulers like Ashoka the Great, and we have Jaina rulers like Chandragupta Maurya, and we have rulers from other sects also. So even you cannot classify the entire, even if you take the religion of the rulers, you just cannot classify that phase as Hindu phase. And then he assigned the word Muslim to the medieval period, because most of the rulers in that period were Muslims, like the Mughals, or before that we have the Delhi Sultanate, sultans. So most of them were Muslims, but again there are many Hindu rulers as well. And of course, finally, after Britishers took over control over India, he assigned that phase, he assigned the name British to that phase. Now, can we accept this classification? And obviously he classified history into these 3 phases based on the religion of the rulers. But how important is the religion of the rulers? Can you just assign the religion of the ruler to the entire phase? Does it mean that the religion, the customs, and the practices of ordinary people have no significance? In fact, that is how James Mill felt, and we definitely cannot accept this classification now. Even the modern classification of ancient, medieval, and modern is not really justified, because whenever I say medieval, generally my feeling is that that period was mostly undeveloped and in a way a dark phase in our history. And when I say modern, it refers to development and development and march towards progress. But again, this classification is also not precise. Even this classification has its own share of problems, and many present day historians assign the name colonial period. They say colonial period or colonial history to this so-called modern phase. So they don't agree that this modern phase is really modern, because there was so much exploitation of Indians, and in fact we have experienced so many famines, so many disasters during the British rule. So how can you simply call it modern or developed phase? So many historians assign the name colonial period. What is colonial? Colonial means, it is when I say colonial, it's adjective of the word colony. So Britishers made India a colony. Colony means where they settle. In fact, they made India a colony and they made it an exporter of raw material to to the British Empire, and from there they in the British Empire they made finished products in their factories and sold them at a very high price again in their colonies. So the colonies supplied raw material to their factories and they supplied markets. So whatever they produced out of raw material taken from India, and whatever they produced they sold again to our people at a much higher price. In the process they benefited immensely. So many people many modern historians refer to this British period as a colonial period. So I hope you understood the major themes presented in this chapter. So let me summarize one more time. So the first question is, are dates important? And my answer is, dates are important, but they are not everything. Dates are in fact less important than what they used to be. And then how history is written, from whose perspective it is written, is very, very important. The earlier histories written by the British historians were all written from the viewpoint of the British. They glorified their rule. They presented themselves as saviors. They presented Indian people as savages or uncultured, uncivilized people, and definitely we cannot agree to that opinion. Definitely, yes, definitely brought many modern institutions, but it doesn't mean that the entire India and all the customs and all the cultures that we followed were unimportant. They are equally important and equally respectable. So we cannot accept the Britishers' way of presenting our Indian history. And most of the histories that the British historians written were centered around the British rulers, their governors general, their viceroys, and what they did when they became viceroy or governor general, their achievements. In fact, basically they centered around the political history of British. You won't find much mention about the cultural history. You won't find much mention about the economic progress that we made or the economic hardships that we faced during their period. You don't find much about what common people were doing in that period. Of course, now we study history from our perspective. Now even our forefathers have some place in the histories written by our historians nowadays. Okay, and then I talked about James Mill's classification. I talked about this classification, Hindu, Muslim and British phases, which is unacceptable because he classified based on the rule of the religion of the rulers, which is unacceptable. Okay, now this is the modern classification. Even this classification is not perfect, but that is how we actually classify our history, and that is how we study.